Frank Sinatra was one of my first clients, and he wanted to give me a tip, but I was very respectful to him. Oh no, Mr. Sinatra, da-da-da. We started talking, he just said, "You're gonna do good, kid." He told me, asked me some questions, that you're gonna do good, you have a good personality, and I was just so jazzed just to even be in the same room with him. What we became to the studios was not only a delivery company, we provided them data and reports, efficiency reports, what areas were spending what kind of money, what areas were they going to more. We had the ability to do that kind of thinking for them. The unions had a monopoly on all the courier drivers in the movie industry. They had to go through the studios. We broke that monopoly. It had never been done before, which opened up something else that had never been done. What I'm very proud to say, probably the proudest of anything that we were able to accomplish, is that we finally became a conduit for people of color, black, brown, that would have never had an opportunity to work in the industry. We were the company. They came through us.
How much has that benefited you in terms of being able to leverage your heritage to get opportunities? And also maybe how much has that hurt you in some capacity?
Hi, I'm Jesse Perez. I'm the owner of Classic Couriers, 44 years in the business. It's been a pleasure being here on the last to first podcast with Jason Burns. Please look us up at Classic Couriers if you ever need anything moved in Southern California. We don't never close, 7 days a week, 24 hours.
All right, check this out. If you're in the last mile delivery industry, we have created something that's just for you. We've called it the last to first huddle, or the L2F huddle. We can come into an ecosystem or community built for the last mile, by the last mile. Now, you'll be able to get access to educational courses, right? Playbooks, as I call them. We build playbooks teaching you everything from A to Z in the last mile industry. Everything from how to set your right driver model, to how to navigate misclassification issues, to how to find customers, how to price that work, how to operate it, all the way through to if you want to buy a company, how do you value those businesses? We also have an AI tool called Ask Miles. Miles will answer any how-to question about the industry. I've personally trained it myself. It's pretty damn good. And then also, we're about community. So you're going to access coaches, experts. We have film studies or weekly calls. You'll be able to deep dive into workshops. Look, this is the place to be if you're in the last mile industry. L2FHuddle.com. I'll see you inside. It's time to huddle up. Let's do it. Last and first podcast. Welcome back to our next episode. Look, today we've got a nugget. We've got somebody in the house that has been doing this for over 40 years. And it's bringing a lot of knowledge, a lot of interesting type of deliveries that they've done, something that we haven't had on the podcast before. And I'm telling you, in our conversation before we got on camera, got some really interesting stories that deal with the mob and maybe the mafia, right? You guys definitely want to check this out. All right, so I am joined today with the founder and CEO of Classic Couriers here in California, Mr. Jesse Perez. Jesse, welcome to the podcast.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much, Jason.
I'm glad you have me in your hometown. So you are about an hour away from here where you live, but you said that this area, we're in Hollywood area.
Yes.
You used to have your office at this...
Right between Hollywood and Vine. There for almost 35 years.
Wow.
Yes,
wow.
A long time.
So that probably brings a lot of memories.
Yes, a lot of memories, a lot of changes.
Yeah. All right, so let's just start off just painting a picture for our audience as to who Classic Couriers is. Maybe just talk a little bit about the company size, kind of what you do, where you do it at, just a little bit of sense of the business.
Well, it's, as you mentioned before, we started in 1982, so we'll be 44 years old this coming August, and we started as a very small company, always based in Hollywood. I had been working for another courier company while I took a leave of absence from college, and I evolved in the company. Eventually, that company fired me. I had nowhere else to go, so I started my own company, kind of on a whim, and the rest is history.
Well, okay, why'd you get fired? What happened?
Well, there was a lot of nepotism. So the company was inherited by this young man who had actually only been hired 2 weeks before I did. So I guess he got to meet the owner, the previous owner before I did, got to ingratiate himself to this person. And when that person died, he inherited the whole business.
Damn.
And I was already managing the business. And so I was able to stay on, and we had a relationship. But after a few years, he was bringing in family members that were in non-productive positions, making money. Unfortunately, got into some other things that it wouldn't be fair for me to comment, but they were not clearly legal.
Yeah.
And eventually, he just decided that he wanted somebody else to run the administrative part of the company. He brought in an efficiency expert, and once they thought that they had learned everything from me, which they had not, but I made them think that they had, they, of course, let me go.
Yeah.
And then 2 or 3 months after that, I started my own company.
So take me through like day one. You start your business back in 1982. Are you already focused on exactly who your first customer was going to be? Were you, because after you had been in the space a little bit, were you able to pull one of those customers away from the current business and get started with? Like, how'd you get started? What was day one?
Ironically, I wanted to start the company a year before because I could see the writing on the wall as far as the direction that the company that I had been working for was going. And I approached a very dear friend of the family who had the financial wherewithal. And we talked about what my vision was, and he was on board. For whatever the reason, we had some delays, some setbacks in getting the company going. And as luck would have it, that was a major writer strike in 1981. Okay. And if I had started the company and gone into, opened up our doors, we would have gone out of business. So just the luck of the draw again, that by having those setbacks, it saved us from bankruptcy. Yeah. So now we go into 1982. Now I finally get fired, which I already expected. I was going to be fired the year before, but they weren't comfortable yet. Then I started my company, and it was not a very easy start to my company.
Yeah. And the writer strike was important because you built your business off of
the movie industry.
Movie industry.
Everything that I knew and everything that company did was predicated around all the major studios.
All right, so I'm a novice. I don't know anything about last mile. Talk me that way. What does the movie industry use a courier service for?
Well, they used two forms of transportation. One was each studio had their own in-house transportation. They were all union, Teamsters, Local 399, and they used outside companies. Plus, they used a little-known form of doing business, which is now exploded into something else now, which are PAs. It's an acronym for production assistants. So usually there was even a very famous movie that Jerry Lewis did in the early 60s called The Errand Boy, where he was based out of Paramount Studios, and he was a gopher. And that's what these guys were, young men and women. They'd get the director or the producer their lunch, go pick up their girlfriend or their kids from the school. But then it started evolving more and more.
This year, SCI celebrates 30 years of innovation. Since 1996, we've led the way with advancements that have shaped the final mile industry. In 2000, SCI became the first online TPA, and in 2002, the first to offer designated client portals. By 2005, we expanded customer service by creating dedicated teams for individualized support. Innovation continued in 2012 with the launch of live chat and full digital enrollment. In 2019, SCI became the only TPA with full access to W-2 processing and launched Adapt Payroll. In 2023, we were the first to launch a mobile app, and in 2024, the first to integrate full AI enrollment. For 30 years, SCI has delivered progress, trust, and innovation, and we're just getting started. Learn more at sciadmin.com.
Or on your way home, can you take a couple of things, dropping off here and there? On your way into work the next day, can you pick up a couple of items coming to the studio? And it then morphed into literally almost another form of transporting things to and from the studio.
Got it. So who was your first customer? Because I did a little homework, right? We're talking about companies like Paramount, Hulu, Netflix, Walt Disney, Sony, Fox, Viacom, CBS.
Yes.
This is not your mom and pop studios here.
No, we've been very blessed.
These are the who's who.
The very first client that we had was Paramount Pictures. Okay. They're the ones that actually gave me an opportunity, especially a young kid from Mexico City, because I'm part of an immigrant family, which is a very hot topic as we go now on an international basis. Yeah, they were part of an immigrant family from Mexico City, and they saw enough of me, and they knew that I had a prior relationship with the powers to be, that they gave me that opportunity.
Yeah. So because you were working with the previous firm, you had some experience, not just in the space, but with the individuals making these PAs or making these decisions.
That is correct, sir.
Got it. All right, so you start working with Paramount.
Yes, sir.
And you're doing kind of the personal errand type deliveries, but then also you start seeing that evolve into more business type deliveries.
Yes, sir.
So what was that evolution? Like, what did you start doing that was more on the B2B side?
Well, what happened with Paramount, and was conducive with the other studios, is that they handle most of their work, I would say 98% of their work, with their own transportation department. But it was becoming a financial fiasco for them, because once you have a person, let's say your son, is in the collective bargaining agreement with the union. Once they call him into work, you have to guarantee that person 8 to 10 hours work, whether they did any work or not. they would sit sometimes in what they would call back then the doghouse, where they would have like a room where they're playing cards, literally waiting for a call to make a pickup or make a delivery or what have you. And within the studio, you have this facility, and they also have a whole garage full of cars that, because of the contract, they had to provide to these drivers as well to do a delivery. So now, as they're setting up their schedule for every day, they're scheduling, let's say, 15 to 20 drivers, not knowing how much work is going to be coming in the next day, when and where, et cetera. So now they're sitting on a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted space, where they were just spending money for people just to sit around and do nothing, or maybe do 1 or 2 deliveries a day, but they had to pay them the union wages, their benefits, plus the use of a car, the insurance that went on the car, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I came up with a concept.
Okay. And that was Classic Couriers.
Yeah, the concept was, I went to a Paramount and I said, I introduced myself, and they already knew me, but I said, now I started my own company. I know what the rules or regulations are. I've now become a Teamster company, a union company, which is another story thing. I mentioned to you briefly how we even got started. But now I could go with them knowing that we're part of a union contract. I said, if you have one delivery, you just pay me for one delivery. There's no guarantees. It's my job. It'll be my risk to stock up the company based on what I think there's going to be volume for the next day. But you don't have to pay anything. If you don't have any deliveries, you don't pay for anything. If you have one delivery, you pay for one delivery. You have 100 deliveries, you're going to pay for 100 deliveries. It was a win-win situation, because now the risk of them having all these people on their payroll and doing nothing now was shifted to me.
Yeah, so you sold efficiency gain.
That is correct.
You sold a different model that was
efficiency and no risk to them.
No risk, yeah, no exposure, no risk. Keep their balance sheets light.
And then on top of that, what we did was we completely indemnified them. So we carried the workers' comp, the personal liability, lost cargo insurance. So again, they were totally indemnified. They had no risk whatsoever. Somebody got hurt on the job making a delivery or a pickup, what have you, it was on our insurance. Something got lost, claim would be put in, we would cover the loss of that particular claim. Something got damaged or whatever, it would go also into our insurance policy.
Now your driver model at that time, it was W-2, 1099. What was your model?
Always W-2.
Okay. Always
Yeah,
W-2.
I never thought I'd look good in pinstripes, and I love the concept of independent contractors, but I was too much risk, and at the same time, the studios were very specific. When we signed a contract, there was no subcontracting. So when they went to Classic Couriers and we had a 3-year deal or whatever the contract specified, then it was our drivers. We could not sub it out to your company if you had a company, or an individual. It had to be people that were our employees, because that way they had care, custody, and control of the whole situation.
Okay. Now that's a result of, you mentioned like the Teamsters in the union, so you had to be almost compliant to be a part of that.
To be a part of the movie industry back then, more than ever, you had to be a signatory company to Teamsters Local 399.
So a couple questions here. One, how were you able to be any more efficient than the studio? Because I guess when you were saying that, I thought we're going to say you had 1099s at that time, but you had W-2. So you had to have found volume elsewhere to keep these drivers busy. Talk about how you were able to grow and gain more volume to make it make sense.
My advantage is that I had managed this company now for about 3 or 4 years. So during that time, I was kind of the go-to person in the company that I worked for. So whenever anybody had a problem with a delivery, I handled all the billing. So I handled any accounting questions. If there was even a question as far as a problem or an issue with a particular job, they went to me. I would resolve the problem to their satisfaction, either reimburse them or not charge them for anything, et cetera. So I was the go-to person. After 3 or 4 years, I had all the contacts.
Drop-off brings peace of mind, convenience, and professionalism to every delivery. We're helping healthcare, retail, and industrial businesses offer a better delivery experience. You can place a delivery online from your computer or phone any time of the day, with upfront pricing and to-the-minute arrival times. Real-time tracking allows you to monitor your delivery on a live map throughout the entire process. You'll get automatic confirmations when your order is picked up and delivered. Our couriers are vetted, uniformed, and only drive in marked vehicles, guaranteeing a professional experience every time. You can rest easy knowing that we will represent your brand exactly the way you need us to. We're committed to providing exceptional customer service. That's why our delivery experts are available 24/7 to ensure your business goes uninterrupted. This is same-day delivery made simple. Talk to a same-day delivery expert on dropoff.com or call us today.
Yeah. And so the growth that occurs in the early years, maybe talk a little about the scale and the size of how you were able to grow. And I'm assuming at the same time, because I know at some point, even back in my days when we were doing, back in my day, like I'm some but we did some, we were doing, back in New Orleans, we were doing some movie production, film production deliveries. Either it was picking up from like a football game, like the NFL had something, or NBA had something. And then there was a studio that was built in New Orleans, and so they were doing some movie production delivery. So I got a little taste of this, but
yes, sir.
You were in the heart. I mean, you're in smack dab in Hollywood.
They were in the middle of the whole
on the ground level.
That is, sir. That is correct, sir.
I guess I'm interested to hear, like, what do you see the growth? What was the growth that was occurring at that time as the business started to evolve and really shift to where it was very, advantageous?
I got to tell you, we were very, very lucky, Jason. Again, because of the contacts, but we had a product that nobody had ever done before. We had a service. Anybody can pick up a pen and take it from my office to your office because it's a very special pen.
Yeah.
What we brought to the table was a different look. Here locally, there's a commercial that has been going on for quite a few years regarding a plumbing company. I can't think of the name of the company, but it's called the Good Smelling Plumbers. Not Bubba, but it's another company.
Okay.
So we brought up a look where there was a stereotype. If you're a Teamster driver, you're kind of older guy, kind of with a pot belly that I have now, and they're kind of disheveled, and they're the ones doing all these deliveries. I had a bunch of young guys that I kind of grew up with that were part of the initial nucleus of the company, and I came up with a concept that they're all going to look like preppy students. So we had polo shirts with our logo and our emblem on it, 6 different colors, kind of pastel colors, because it was kind of the Miami Vice of that era. So we had all the cool Miami Vice colors. So green for Monday and pink for Wednesday, whatever like that. So everybody looked the same. Khaki pants and kind of like topsider tennis shoes, all very looking. You look like a college student. And that was something that I had never seen before. We also brought some innovative features back then, which was never had been done in LA. It cost a lot of money back then, but they were the two-way radios. And when I talk about two-way radios, that unit was probably as big as this box right there. I mean, it weighed a ton. You put it somewhere in the back seat. You had this big coaxial cable with an antenna on top.
On top
and then
of the car.
you're talking.
Because
Because prior to that, it was the era of pagers. So you got page, you had to find a public pay phone. You had to have a roll of dimes and whatever it took to get that phone working. And that's how you communicated with it now. But we had radios. And that was something that nobody had done. So that created a great level of efficiency. Cost-cutting measures, because now you're saving time. Communication is almost instantaneous with your client and the driver in question. So that was something that was also different. And as time went on, we brought a computerization into the industry. Before, it was the old way of, you got a ticket, like when you go to McDonald's, which is different now. You wrote a ticket, it would go back to the kitchen. You get that same here. We'd get the physical call. You wrote a ticket. You passed on the ticket to the dispatcher. Now he's reading the order. We brought computers, and at the very beginning of the stages where now you would read them, you'd get the order. It would be sent to the dispatch, through a computer screen. You read the order, and then they would get it. But then that would evolve later on. And I don't know if that'll be another question with now people having smartphones, but that's even further down the line. But that was part of the beginning back in 83, 84, 85. Also, billing. Again, billing back then, you would send a physical, invoice with whatever orders were there. You mail it out, and then we came up with the innovation to start doing electronic filing. We were the first in a lot of ways to do business with, which made it more efficient, created more data. So what we became to the studios was not only a delivery company, we provided them data and reports, efficiency reports, what areas were spending what kind of money, what areas were they going to more. We had the ability to do that kind of thinking for them.
One of my mentors, advisors, who's also, I have this online community space called The Last of First Huddle. Rick McClellan, shout out Rick McClellan.
Oh yes, I know Rick, great guy.
The Godfather, right?
Yes.
I was at a conference early on in my career, and he said the data is more important than the delivery.
Yes, sir.
I thought it was crazy when he said that, but the more I've participated in this industry and been a part of it, it's true. And you're going back to early '80s. What you're saying brings back so much nostalgia for me, because I remember as a kid, with my dad riding the car. He's got one of those things on top, and he's sometimes holding it up there because it's sliding off. I remember the big phone you had with that, had the antenna be about that long. It was like, hold the phone up like
we looked at World War II, when they're talking about those old war movies.
It looks like, like you're dialing on an airstrike in or something, right?
Yes, exactly.
And what was I was thinking when you were talking, what was the first Courier operating system that you used? You talk about dispatch and software. What was it? Do you remember what it was?
It was a small mom and pop company, Latinos as well. And the company was called Ascar. I think they're still in business.
Okay.
And they're the ones that back then, they had the monopoly here, especially in Southern California.
Yeah.
And they had this program where taking the orders, getting them out electronically to your particular drivers. From there, pricing everything out, bundling things up based on your specifications, and getting the billing down electronically.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, and then so from a commodity standpoint, the film. So I'm assuming the evolution evolved from like the personal errands to picking up the film, maybe bringing it to like an editing studio, back and forth. Is that a lot of what the business was then? And then
that
it evolved
was
past
the
that?
business. There was a time, Jason, I would say for 10, 15, even more years. 40 years. I can't believe 40 years. But that we're literally round the clock. The normal production back then, I don't know what production schedule is now because everything has changed so much. You'd usually have your production starting right after Labor Day. And you would go all the way through probably just before Memorial Day the following year. Usually an episodic series would go 20 to 25 episodes.
Okay.
So you have 20 to 25 weeks of filming. So in between then now, they're shooting on a stage on any particular studio. We're on standby because once they finish the shoot for the day, we're picking up the raw film. And we're taking film to, let's say, Technicolor. I'm name dropping. And then we take the raw film for colorization, whatever. Then we would take other components of the film for sound. So we would go to another laboratory for sound. And this is happening like 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Once those things are finished, we're picking up now what they call the dailies the following morning at 6:30 in the morning. Now we're taking all these different shows, and we're taking them to the production offices so they can see what they had done the previous day. While all this is going on, keep in mind, again, there's scripts that are being written. There's even, while they're shooting that night prior, that we've already are in the process of picking up the film to deliver, they're doing rewrites because something came out that they're already seeing that they don't like. And they have to change the verbiage or how a particular scene is going to be, whatever lines were included in that scene. They're rewriting part of that script. Now we're picking up those rewrites and taking them to the actors' homes.
To the homes.
To the homes.
Oh, because they had to prepare for the next day.
Because keep in mind, computers are way still in the distance. Emailing or faxing machines are still way in the future. Everything is being hand delivered. It was just a bonanza. And we're literally running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Monday through Friday. Literally.
Wow. All right, so I gotta ask my obvious question would be: what celebrities have you met in this process? Have you delivered to someone famous that you can share on tape?
I would say, just off the top of my head, and the person that is still to this day is very endearing to me was Henry Winkler. After he finished Happy Days, he had his own production company. As a matter of fact, all the actors that were on Happy Days had a production deal after the show was over, and they all each had their offices and what back then they would call Producers Building at Paramount Studios. It's under a different name now. So between Henry Winkler, Ron Howard, and you go on, they had their own production companies. And Eddie Murphy, my client for many years, Tom Cruise, when it was Cruise Wagner, my goodness, Fred Dreyer when he was doing, I forgot the action show where he was a cop. He used to play with the LA Rams, a defensive end. The guy from MacGyver, just about anybody you can think of. Frank Sinatra was one of my first clients. And I had actually a personal encounter with him. He had his office just down the street here on Santa Monica Boulevard. We used to be called Warner Hollywood Studios. We just passed it up right on our way in here. And I remember personally going there to make a pickup for him. And he wanted to give me a tip, but I was very respectful to him. Oh, no, Mr. Sinatra, da-da-da. We started talking. He just said, "You're going to do good, kid." He told me, asked me some questions. Said, "You're going to do good. You have a good personality." And I was just so jazzed just to even be in the same room with him. But just a very nice man, very, very polite. And, it was just great.
I have a picture of Frank Sinatra in my bathroom. I see it every single morning. It's a picture of him. And on the top it says, the best revenge is massive success.
Yes.
And I look at this thing every single day. That's I got goosebumps.
Yeah, Frank Sinatra, not only that, he's had his own production company.
I didn't know that.
Sammy Davis Jr. had his own production company. And then part of the business that was very cool, not as much now because it's been done digitally now, each actor or producer, director, any bigwig in Hollywood had their own screening room in their home. So they don't have their, back then, literally, it was a movie theater where they had a projectionist, had to be a union projectionist.
At their home?
And their homes. Yes. Can't make it up. So we would take the actual print, the movie that would be at a movie theater, we would take that same print because there were thousands of copies made and take it to their home, deliver it at a certain time frame. After they seen it, and pick it up the next day within a certain time frame and bring it back to whatever studio was the distributor for that particular movie.
Yeah. So at peak, right? I mean, I'm fascinated by the stories you're telling me right now, and I was so excited for this episode because I knew we were gonna get. This is like old school.
It's old school,
and I love old school, man. Like I come up on this stuff. So, at peak, like what were you from a volume standpoint? How big was the company? Kind of like in this. I'm assuming I don't know if it's a heyday or not, but like it seemed like it was a time where you do a lot of work. Like, what was the size?
At our peak, and I can't even make this up as far as union drivers, I had 100 union drivers, Teamsters. Our payroll was in the hundreds of thousands every week.
Wow.
I can't make it up, and we're doing probably 4,000 to 5,000 deliveries a day.
Wow. And that was all concentrated here in this area? Or
all in this area.
Okay.
You had the major studios and obviously independent production companies, but our big client was Paramount Pictures. You had Columbia Pictures before they merged. You had Warner Brothers. You had CBS and several of the TV stations, Disney Studios. They were the big ones there. Now there was no back then, no Hulu. There was no Netflix. It was just the major studios. MGM.
Yeah. Certainly a true last to first story, right? I mean, just hearing what you said so far, going from, leaving the company, kind of getting pushed out of the company, and then finding a new solution, a better way to service your clients, and then obviously becoming. I'm assuming at that point, were you the primary? I know in some of our notes you shared that you guys were exclusive to a lot of these studios. So, were you the main provider for a lot of these studios?
We were.
One of the top
there was
ones?
probably another company. There was about 2 or 3 other companies that were also signatory to the industry. Yeah. And what's really fascinating, we all came from the same company that I worked for. I can't make it up. There's another story. One of my main competitors, actually, they worked for me, and some things happened that were not exactly what you would consider ethical, but they started their own company to compete with me. Several other people did startups or whatever. Most of them failed. One of them did continue on. And there was another couple of other companies that were already there, but they were never the size that we were.
Yeah.
We grew the fastest of all the companies, and because we had the technology, we always would reinvest our money every year to see what was new, what was out there. Good and bad, because the good is that, you're being proactive and you're trying to stay ahead of the game. The bad is that there was not a lot of prior experience with that particular product. So some of the products ended up not working as we thought they were going to work, which created some legal issues with the people that were, expounding on their product, and it didn't come through with what they said it could do.
If you're tired of chasing drivers for proof of deliveries, scanning paperwork at midnight, or dealing with "I never got my package" claims, Different was built to fix that. Digital signatures and photos captured instantly on any device. POD goes straight to your customer once your driver hits complete. No more phone calls, no more scanning, no more dealing with claims 6 months down the road because you couldn't find paperwork. Different was built by operators who ran a courier business for 35 years. They've lived your problems, so they built real solutions. Check out deliverdifferent.com/last to first. Yeah. All right, so take me through the transition of this, because obviously we live in a world today where, like we were talking right before here, I'm working with the engineer here, and I got a memory card, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to record this, and it's going to get uploaded, and by the time I get back home, it'll be electronically sent to to my computer.
See, it's thanks to you guys that we don't have the business that we used to have
not
because
me.
it's all digital. I'm looking at this chip you took out of your computer. Saying this back then, they were reels of sound tapes, and we're picking up these tapes that had to be then transferred to another format that's going to be combined then to the movie or the episode of the television show. Then even after that, it still has to go to editorial, where they're actually hand splicing things physically. You could see everything on the floor. They would call them the cutting rooms. That's why they were called the cutting rooms, because they're literally cutting film, splicing things together with tape. To see the process, I can't make it up. I would be a part of that, and there were some projects that were very private or very, very critical, like Eddie Murphy's Beverly Hills Cop 1. You had to be there as a driver because you're picking up whatever phase of the film. You had to physically stay with that product to make sure that it wasn't going anywhere else. Once we would pick it up, they would send a guard with our driver to make sure it's getting from point A to point B with no stops. I can't make it up.
I believe it, because I got to imagine, that's so much the value of that asset.
Yes.
Massive.
Yes.
And it's spliced and taped together. It's one original copy. It's one of one. You don't want to go back to
That is correct. That is correct.
I think about now when I'm sometimes editing content that I'm doing, I'm using software products, CapCut. Shout out CapCut. You need to get a podcast sponsorship on CapCut. But I'm just splicing the editing and back and forth and moving things around and sending it off to different places. But my question is, how has that impacted the business? Obviously, it has to have hurt some of the volume and sales of the business since that
I would
demand is
say
not there.
we've lost about 50% of our business.
Wow.
If probably even more than that, to be honest with you, because especially there was a very critical time in the movie industry that happened about, off the top of my head, between 2006, 2008, when the recession hit. And at that point also, in the wisdom of the unions, the writers went on strike as well around that time period. And literally they were on strike for almost 3 months. So all the pipeline of old projects that could have been put in front of a camera with a script, it dried up. Wow. And what happened was we were already at the dawn of the new age of digital content and whatever. The studios said, we're not going to go through this again. They accelerated and really put everything literally on warp speed. So once everything had settled down, now we're facing a new era that we had heard about, but we had no idea what it actually was going to look like. Yeah. And then there's even, through that, they came up with another concept. It's called VPO, Virtual Production Offices. So you can be you're filming in Australia. And you got your production car. They got our guy here is in his own trailer there doing everything, and you're doing it and editing everything right then and there, and sending that product all the way back to Hollywood or to Malibu or wherever the powers to be are located at instantaneously. You're processing your payroll from that point. The same thing, as you're doing all this editing, you're already managing the hours that were put in, their rates and everything, and you're doing payroll at the same time. Amazing. We used to have hundreds of deliveries a day, taking paychecks to people, physically paychecks, making bank deposits. Amounts that I don't even want to talk about. Now it's all done electronically.
The digital transformation created a big, I would say it was a opportunity for, in some cases, because I think it shifted the relevance of last mile couriers. But also hurt a lot of companies, right? I mean, I know our business, my dad built our business initially off of the banking industry. He was a banker. Yes. And we ended up taking a payroll. He actually had a payroll company. And all that kind of went away. So what year was this for you? This is when does this really start to see?
2006, 2007, 2008, right around that time period.
Yeah.
It really took off.
Yep. And so what do you do? So obviously you're in the midst of seeing this change happen, right? You, and like everything else in life, right? Like everything always changes. Nothing stays the same.
Right.
Do you start I know you still do some work with the studios today, so I want to hear about what you're doing today. But also, did you start looking at other verticals and expanding to say, hey, we got to do something different because we can't just shut down the office?
That's a very good question. I had one of those moments in life. And it's something that is so common. And one of the downfalls of being in Southern California is traffic. So one morning, I'm coming in from Diamond Bar on the 60 freeway, which I took that route right now. It's been a while coming into Hollywood. All of a sudden, we're at a dead stop. And as I look to my right, I'm on the fast lane. I look to my right, and that's where all the trucks are. And I never had really, it really never had hit me. I just saw this endless amount of trucks. They're on the slow lanes because they're merging to another freeway, or that's where they're supposed to be because of their size and the speed limitations. And all of a sudden, I thought to myself, well, you know, Jesse, you're not going to be out of business. There's a lot of business out there. Because I'm thinking to myself, look at all that. They're moving things, but they're tangible things. And that's the difference, because you're dealing now, transporting this piece of paper on my notepad. I can digitize that and send it, scan it and send it to you back to Texas if I want to. Or this, that it's going to you as well, but this cannot be digitized. I have to put it in an envelope, a box, and ship it out. And that's where I decided that I have to deal with things that are tangible.
It's fascinating. I think that's one of the things that I have learned to appreciate so much about this industry is how we have evolved and going from, we talk about just different types of commodities and how the digital transformation opened you up to other opportunities. It was, you know, either survive or you're gonna be closing shop.
Sink or swim.
Yeah, sink or swim. So what were those other customer verticals or clusters that you identified to say, okay, I'm looking at this truck, I'm seeing this freight of some kind. I gotta get my hands on something, right? Something that can't be sent via email. Or
right. Again, one of the things that the studios have done very proactively over all these years is that they have really, and I like to say we were one of the pioneers, being a minority owned and operated company in our particular genre, but they've had what they call minority trade fairs. And in one of those trade fairs around that era, it was one that was actually sponsored by CBS. And I met this one person there. We kind of hit it off, but nothing came about it, but we ran into each other the following year. And it was a company located in North Carolina. And what they did, they specialized in sporting events. So we started talking more. They took a liking to me. They came and actually visited our company. And because we had some mutual clients in the industry, like Paramount, 20th Century Fox, Fox Sports, etc., Disney with ESPN, which was one of my clients on a local basis, that they got to know more about our company, and that's been one of our biggest changes. Is now we're very big now in the entertainment field, whether it's sporting events, concerts, conventions, or what have you, where you're taking electrical lighting and grip equipment. That is one of the areas that we have kind of morphed into because of this company. And if you know, every studio has an entertainment side to them, which is not only film or TV or whatever, but they're all involved with concerts. They're multifaceted corporations now. They own sporting teams, or they own arenas, or they're involved in some kind of venture or whatever. So that has really helped us out as well now, is the entertainment industry, as far as sports venues, concerts, music, what have you.
You have figured out how to stay in the game.
Yes, sir.
And we're talking about this off camera a little bit. Like, if you stay in the game, law averages at some point the ball will fall in your lap. Right? At some point you will make it happen.
Yes.
I want to segue into what I was going to get to this a little bit later, but you brought it up. Your heritage, right? You are from Mexico City.
Yes, sir.
You know, back in the time in the 80s, right? Even right now, we're in an environment now where there's a lot happening in the world. How and you mentioned how you leveraged that opportunity to kind of pivot into this new kind of segment. How much, maybe a two-part question here. How much has that benefited you in terms of being able to leverage your heritage and leverage whether you had, like, you know, a minority certification to get opportunities? And also maybe how much has that hurt you in some capacity? Has that happened to you in your career?
Well, it was negative for us when we first started the company. I had mentioned to you, I mentioned another courier company that were Teamsters, and when they let me go, I knew what I needed to do. I already had incorporated the company. I had a little bit of a law background. I went to USC, but didn't finish my first year, but I had enough knowledge where I knew how to do minutes and do whatever that you needed to do, get my PUC license, get my workers' comp certification, everything like that. I already had invested in uniforms and the radios. So now that I'm ready to roll, I then knock on the door of our union local and reintroduce myself. And I knew them, they knew me. I let them know what my intentions were. I had myself and 3 other people that were going to be the foundation of the company, and I wanted them to unionize us, where more times than not, a company will go into a shop because there's some disgruntlement with their employees and they want to organize the workforce. Usually the owners don't want that because it puts them in a very uncompetitive level
Yes.
with other people that are doing the same work that they're doing.
Right.
But here I'm going to them saying,
That's different.
I'm Jesse Perez.
Yeah.
I'd like you to organize us. I have this and this. I'm already ready to roll. And they actually said no to me. So my reaction was, maybe in my excitement, I spoke in Spanish. Let me rephrase it again. And I rephrased it, and they still said no, which is kind of a universal word in the whole world. Doesn't matter what language. No is no.
No is no.
So I kind of left there very bewildered. And part of what I would advise anybody right now, if they're starting a business, always align yourself with people that are smarter than you. Align yourself politically with people that believe in you, whether it's your local congressman, senator, whatever it is, whatever part of the country you're from, however the local government is set up, and get yourself somebody that will believe in you and that will be a part of your quest, to whatever you're trying to attain. So because of these contacts, I met with back then, and he's become quite a legend, Senator Roybal, who was the first Mexican-American in the U.S. Congress. He been back to the 40s. Wow. And I met with his liaison. He connected me with our congressman in Sacramento. I went to them. I told them what was going on. They couldn't believe my story. They actually brought in one of their lobbyists who dealt with all the unions. He said, you got to tell them the story. He looked at me like, what the heck? So then they made some calls here in L.A., with the Western Conference of Teamsters, and they set up a meeting. I went to them. They couldn't believe my story. I told them the story, so they got on the phone. Not a very friendly phone call from what I can see through a glass door. And they said, it's all done. Went to the local office to sign a contract. They were not happy to see me. Signed a contract. I called Paramount, said, I'm ready to go. I have a contract. And they said, okay, we start Monday. We started Monday, and everything was fine. We really doing very well. The look that we had, the technology, they were very, very happy. 3 weeks into me starting the business, I get a call from Paramount saying that the Teamsters say I don't have a contract.
Wow.
And if I use you tomorrow, they're going to put a picket line around Paramount Studios. And this is around October, November of 1982. I was only, like I said, less than a month into the business. Wow. I looked at my contract. And what I didn't realize in my haste and my joy is they signed me as an independent owner, not as a corporation. So it was just me, not a company. Not fair because they knew that it was a company.
Yeah.
So I called him back. I said, "You're right. Please don't call." I called other clients that I had back then. I'd gotten part of Warner Brothers and part of Columbia Pictures because of my previous relationships. I told them in advance, I said, I'm dealing with this legal issue. I don't want to put you in an awkward situation with the labor union. I said, I'll call you back once this is resolved. They appreciated the call. As luck would have it, this is on a Wednesday. That next day, Thursday, I got my first subscription. There's a Bible. There's two magazines that are a Bible in the movie industry, The Hollywood Reporter and The Daily Variety. That is the Bible. You get it every day. It tells you who's doing what, et cetera, et cetera. And the headline on the Hollywood Reporter's front page was, Tuesday production wins landmark antitrust case. I knew the word antitrust case because of my previous little background.
Yep.
And I called them up in San Diego, and Tuesday production was a jingle company. They would do music for commercials, and they were being blackballed by the industry. For whatever reason, I never found out the details, but they ended up winning their antitrust case.
Okay.
And they connected me with a law firm. Okay. Which is still my law firm right now. And I went to meet with them, told them what was going on. And as luck would have it, or unluck, they filed a lawsuit in a couple of days, not only suing the union, the local, the Western Conference of Teamsters, but also the whole Teamster organization on a national level. Wow. And then one particular person, Jackie Presser, who was the head of the local, who allegedly had, ties.
Ties.
Yeah.
I got you.
And And 3 weeks into the lawsuit, I get a call from the head legal counsel at Paramount. Her name was Mina Taylor. I think she's out of the business now because, again, this was 40 plus years ago. And she wanted me to explain what was going on. I told her what had happened. He says, well, let me understand this. So you had a contract in your mind? I said, yes. You're paying the drivers their wages? I said, yes. You're paying their contributions? I said, weekly. That's what the contract says. So you've done everything you're supposed to do? I said, yes. I said, why didn't you include us in the lawsuit? Because we did not include Paramount. I said, again, my background, I'm from Mexico City. The way I was raised, my loyalty is to you because you've given us an opportunity. How dare me bite the hand that is feeding my people?
Yeah.
And she was just dumbfounded by us not pursuing the lawsuit in that format. So she calls transportation. Transportation says, no, they're doing a great job. They're doing this and this and this. Says, well, I'm giving them my blessing to start using you come Monday. And once that happened, the union found out about this. They signed us to a contract. 44 years later, even though the first 10 years was very tenuous, it was not a very friendly relation because I pretty much had forced their hand, or I basically called them on their hand.
You called their bluff. So did you ever sue them? Did you?
Oh yeah,
you sued them?
It should have been. It was withdrawn without prejudice.
Wow.
Even to this day.
And so this is early 80s.
1982.
1982. You are suing the union, who also has ties to the.
Well, allegedly.
Allegedly, but so what happened? So I know you've told me some things offline, but that opened you up for some exposure.
Well, because the word got out and people were already using us. But one of the things that happened with the Teamsters is that they were really just watching everything that we did. It was almost like you always knew there was somebody behind you. Every little move that you were making, they were just focused. They were just waiting for me to fall or trip or do something and try to file, a lawsuit. So we had a couple of little adventures. One of the things that we were able to succeed, which is, again, breaking up the format that they had for all these decades. Because keep in mind, the unions had a monopoly on all the courier drivers in the movie industry. They had to go through the studios. We broke that monopoly. It had never been done before. We broke that monopoly because of the format that we had.
Yeah.
One of the things that we had to do even then, after the studios were using us directly, is that if I needed a new driver, I had to go through their call board. Well, now you're getting the guys that are, again, used to being in a doghouse, sitting around playing cards and reading Harlequin novels or whatever, and they're not going to be very productive. Our guys are young, they're hungry. I hate to sound prejudiced, but I am. Mexican workers are hard workers. All my drivers are of Mexican heritage. They're busting their butts.
Right.
And it showed with their productivity. So now I'm getting drivers from the local call board. I had one particular instance that finally broke the camel's back. I had a driver that I gotten from the call board, and he had made a delivery at Fox. He has to now go to MGM. The trick with MGM is that when you leave the Fox lot, the street that you come out of is called Motor Avenue.
Okay.
You go on Motor Avenue, it dead ends at the MGM studios. There cannot be a straighter route to go from one studio to another. This driver at 3:30 in the afternoon made a right-hand turn on Pico Avenue at 3:30, which is one of the worst and most trafficked streets in Southern California, got on the Santa Monica Freeway, the San Diego Freeway, at 4 o'clock now, and gets on there to go south, only about 3 or 4 miles, but it took him an hour and 15 minutes.
Wow.
Which it would have taken him 7 minutes to go from point A to point B if he'd just gone to Motor Avenue. Nonetheless, the client was very upset. We were late for the pickup. I ended up having to do it for free. And that was the foundation of another almost lawsuit where I challenged their contract that I'll use Teamster people, I'll hire them, but I want to hire people from the street.
Yeah.
Which opened up something else that had never been done. What I'm very proud to say, probably the proudest of anything that we were able to accomplish, is that we finally became a conduit for people of color, black, brown, that would have never had an opportunity to work in the industry. We were the company. They came through us. Over the years, I would say 3,000 to 4,000 people over the years that worked a couple of days here, a couple of days there. As they're getting seniority, they were black and brown that would have never, ever had gotten their foot in the industry. if there's any accomplishment that I am more proud of, is that one.
Yeah, it's powerful because you're not only a pioneer in the innovations that you brought to the table, but you unlocked opportunity.
Yes, sir.
And I think every
Yes,
great
sir.
entrepreneur that I study and I look at, that's part of their big motivation, right?
Yes,
they,
sir.
they really
To
want
make a difference.
They want to make a difference,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah, everyone wants to be successful and make money and live a good lifestyle, but the special ones, they want to give it back to other people.
God forbid if I were to die tonight in my sleep, hopefully my sleep,
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
peacefully, but I hope not. I know I can go with a peace of mind that I've been able to impact a lot of people in a very positive way, who've then been able to impact their families in a very positive way. I'm really feel really good about that.
Yeah, and look, I think that bringing back into light kind of where we sit at today and the landscape of our country and things that's happening, I think, look, no matter what, and this is, we don't get into politics on this show, but no matter what side you may find yourself on, I think you said it earlier, and I think it's you said it kind of jokingly, but it's true. Like, the Mexican heritage has contributed so much to this country.
Yes, sir.
Just like I'm proud of, the African American heritage.
Yes,
right?
sir.
And everyone's heritage should be proud. Just
Yes.
equally proud. Like everyone has.
We've all contributed.
Everyone has contributed to
Yes, sir.
this phenomenal country that we
Yes,
live in. Right.
greatest country in the world.
Greatest country in the world by far. And I think that the thing that I find when I'm so fortunate to talk to people from all over the place, all walks of life, and there's so much common bond we all have when we sit down and just sit here and have a conversation.
Yes, sir.
And you get out of all the algorithms and everything else happening in the world that's pushing people, to
It's
different
still
corners
about-
of the world. It's this.
Yes, yes, sir.
It's these conversations. And when you do that, you're able to understand the history, the sacrifices that everyone made to
Yes,
get
sir.
here, and the appreciation. And hopefully that inspires the next generation of leadership to continue to execute and build up off of what you have started.
It's not easy, but if you're determined, if you truly have a passion, and I think that's the key word, have a passion in whatever endeavor you're trying to seek out, that's the key. Don't give up. You're going to fall. The key to any one of our successes or failures is what do we do when we get up?
Yeah.
That's going to determine our success or failure as an individual. But you got to get up. You dust yourself off. You don't take it as a mistake. You take it as a learning moment,
Yeah.
as long as it happens once.
Yes. So bring you back fast forward a little bit now, 'cause
Yes,
I
sir.
know one of the things that you mentioned you're excited about is you have transitioned more into the warehousing operations.
Yes, sir.
Doing more warehousing, logistics, fulfillment type work, cross-docking.
Yes.
Talk about that and kind of what you're doing today in this new kind of line of work.
Well, if I were to give someone's advice, because I made one of the most cardinal mistakes that anybody can do, I'm thinking warehousing, this and that is deliveries. It's the same thing. Well, it is the same thing to a degree because you're picking up a commodity. You're taking it from point A to point B, but it's a totally different industry.
Yeah.
And I should have done more homework. So I kind of put the cart in front of the horse first. So again, you're humbled.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, part of who you are today is by making mistakes. And what are you doing to learn about that? So I got into a bigger warehouse that I should have. And it so happened that at that point, the warehousing business went down in Southern California over the last 2 or 3 years. Luckily now I was able to, that ended, and I still had a year left in the original warehouse, which was dramatically smaller, and we're basically regrouping.
Okay.
So again, is now the hindsight.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this year now, not a do or die, but to a degree, is that hindsight, going back to square one. And that sometimes it's okay. My father always told me it's okay to take 2 steps backwards sometimes, to look at everything, because now your depth perception is different. Because when you're looking at this, and you can only see so much, but every time you move further, you can see a broader spectrum. Even further, you can see more, get that peripheral vision going on. So that's what's going on right now. So that's the goal, to go back to square one, smaller warehouse, not connecting myself with the right people that know way more than I'll ever know, because that's another thing. Always align yourself with people that are smarter. You don't ever want to be the smartest one in the room. If you're the smartest in the room, then you're making a mistake. Then it's your ego that's driving you, and you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with a lot smarter people in the same room with you.
Yeah, it's reminds me. I'm starting to do some more leadership training, and in one of my pictures, I have a picture of the end of a track meet. Like picture someone run down a track, and you see the staggering of the different finishers, and I hone in on the last place finisher. And the message around it's okay to be last, because last is really first. And it's what you talk about, because if you're smart, now, there's a right way and a wrong way to finish last. But if you're smart, if you look at this picture, you're saying, I'm in last place, I can see everyone in front of me, which means that if I'm focused and I'm willing to do the work, I can see what I did wrong, but better, I can see what they did right. I can see what may have worked for this person, that person, and try to incorporate that to get yourself moving forward, right?
Yes.
And that's it's difficult, it's not easy, but that's where the magic happens, right? How can you pull yourself to first?
Yes. Yeah. How can you learn by your failure? That's the key, because you're going to fail. I don't care who you are. Yeah. We're all going to fail. But what did we learn, and what can we do, and what can we take from that to move forward? Yeah.
I want to get to a point, we're going to wrap up here soon, but COVID. So I know COVID was a big impact on your business. And talk about what happened there and how you were able to navigate that, and what shifts happened.
Well, COVID was twofold for us, because part of the diversification period that we went through, we picked up an account from a company. We were the 3PL at that point, a company based out in Michigan. They're no longer around. They had a national contract with Rite Aid. Okay. So because of our technology and so on, we worked with each other for almost 10 years, and we were delivering prescriptions from all the different Rite Aids, going to particular within a certain radius of their store, to people that were underserved, underprivileged, whether they were minority, people that didn't have the wherewithal, transportation, people that were elderly, that were too sick to be mobile, etc. And we're making the pickups for the medications, taking them to their homes, picking up cash, bringing it back to the store, and that grew during COVID. I hate to say, because there was so many tragedies going on, we benefited from COVID the first couple of years. I mean, we got into the thousands of deliveries a day because you couldn't go out. Yeah. Unfortunately, though, the company that had the contract lost the contract. And by the time we reacted, after they told us at the very last minute, they already had made a decision to go with another company. On the other hand, the part that did hurt us is COVID hurt us with the movie industry, because now the studios became a ghost town. Yeah. People were working out of their homes. More times than not, most of the people were let go. They were laid off because there was really no product. There was no shooting. Yeah. You had some work on the stages, but it was very, very little. The stages, let's say at Warner Brothers, one of our bigger clients, they had it to the point where they had everybody quarantined. You literally were there 5 days a week. You couldn't even leave the studio.
You slept there?
Yeah, to film. Whatever they were filming, they couldn't leave. They got them housing or whatever accommodations. But even us as a courier, we couldn't go there because, again, the danger of the exposure. So that hurt our business dramatically. Yeah. And then even after COVID was over, it took so long to get things back to the where they're still to this day, Jason. They're not even close to where they were. It's still, studios are a ghost town. Yeah. And then on top of that, because of COVID, people started getting used to that work model of working from their homes. Well, we were impacted, but I can't even imagine the local restaurant, the local dry cleaners, the flower shop, the gas station that is near any of these studios. They're gone. Yeah. They're gone.
Yeah, it's shocking sometimes. I was we're here in LA, and went to Target with my cousin I'm here with, and it's like a ghost town. Like even Target, which is a big brand, big retailer. You travel certain parts of where you still see the remnants and the ramifications and the consequences of COVID, and it's still lingering. And you're right. There was a big rise, particularly in our industry, and then there was a leveling off. Yes. Although I will say, I think one of the good things is that it's certainly COVID really probably, I think, fast forwarded the growth of our industry from a volume standpoint, at least getting the average consumer aware that, hey, these delivery comes out there and they can get stuff to me within minutes. That SD card we're talking about. Yes. We were in Target looking for it. Target didn't have it. Yes. So what did I do? I went on the Uber app and found an Office Depot, and within an hour, someone drops it off to where I am.
Yes.
So I mean, you think about the gift and the curse of that, and it's a parallel to life, right? Things will always be shifting, always changing. So you gotta navigate those.
That is correct.
I want to close with what I ask all my guests, which is their kind of personal last to first moment, and it's the moment that you look to where you feel like, hey, this was a pivotal place where had I not went left or went right or achieved this, maybe I'm not sitting here today. Maybe I'm not able to say I impacted thousands of team members that have been able to afford opportunities for their families. So when you recall back to your long and rich history in this industry, but also personally, what would you say has been your last to first moment?
That's a really, really good question, because so many things have transpired over 40 years. I mean, that's 4 decades. That's, we've gone from television, where there were only a few channels available on your TV set, to now there's just not. I can't even count how many channels.
There's no channel. I don't even watch channel. I watch Netflix and
yes.
You watch the app. So,
it's man, that's a very hard question. If I were to have a moment where I wish I would have pivoted, was probably about 20 years ago, was the warehousing. Warehousing. That's the one I should have done a lot sooner, especially dealing with the movie industry, which would have been, I'm there. And to be able to now not only be a delivery company, but be a distributor for them to house all their promo items and what have you. And then I'm the courier company, so you have twofold. And I missed that one. It's still available to a degree, but there's already companies that are well established where it would be very hard to penetrate what they've already done. I can do it on a small basis, but not what I could have done 20 years ago, because I was a known commodity. And I didn't do it.
Well, I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate being vulnerable, because even though you may not have executed on that, someone's listened to this and they're going to pick up a nugget from that. They're going to pick up, hey, keep your eyes open.
Keep your eyes open.
Even when you're in the midst of growth and opportunities and things that are going really, really good, right? We talk about you really learn the lessons when you're last place.
Yes.
So to avoid that, try to keep your eyes open even when you're sitting in first place.
And don't be afraid. I think my advantage was when I started my company and I was even put out of business, I was single. I was actually, for the first 6 months when I started my company, I collected unemployment. I didn't even collect a paycheck from my company for 6 months. I lived with my mom and dad. I was engaged, but I wasn't even married. But now as I got older and you're looking at all these changes and you see an opportunity, now you're more scared because there's more to lose. Before, I didn't have anything to lose. I lived at home. Okay, if it doesn't happen, well, mom and dad, I'll be here for a little bit longer, whatever, we're cool. But now you have a mortgage, you have kids that you're putting to school, and then they had the things that I only dreamed I could have had. I mean, they're playing in organized sports teams and yada, 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 and you got the new cars and everything like that, but a lot to lose, and I should have taken the risk. I should have taken the risk. So the advice is never be afraid to take a risk. But do it with eyes wide open.
I love that. That's great parting words for me. For our audience, and I'm just really thankful and appreciative that you came and spent some time with me.
I'm very thankful for you having me here.
You've always been someone we met many years ago.
Yes,
many years ago, and you've always stayed connected. We've social media friends.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you always reaching out and just saying a hello, and obviously we do work on the insurance side. I guess I'm appreciative of the opportunity to work with you guys there, but also just for, as I said earlier, you being a pioneer in this space, and I had no idea the innovations you brought to the industry and being one of the first to do a lot of these things. And so, want to pay homage.
We were the guinea pig. Yes.
Well, you made it work. And,
yes.
And you led the way for a lot of people that followed. And you're still here doing it, right?
Yes.
And that's the best thing. You're still here figuring out.
Thank God.
And
yes.
And pushing forward. So it's just such a pleasure to be in your presence.
It's a great pleasure. You have a wonderful family, and so very proud of you. Like I said, I would be proud for me to call you my son. That's how much I think of you, what you've been able to accomplish. And if anything that you're expounding on, you're living proof of the fact that you've pivoted several times in your own life as far as your career, what it was when I first met you, where you were even going with your company. I remember talking to your mom and dad. They were very nervous, but you had a vision, and it worked. And then it went on, and you pivoted a couple of times. So you're living proof of what it takes. Don't be afraid to pivot. There's always opportunities. Just use what you have as a foundation and figure out how you can tweak it to fit something else. Because there's always pieces that are movable that can fit into another puzzle.
I couldn't say any better myself. That was Jesse Perez with Classic Couriers. He's giving you the nuggets of 40 years in the industry. Phenomenal story. I had no idea. I knew you did the courier work in the studios, but I had no idea the impact and the innovations you brought to it.
Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We're going to wrap up here. I'm Jason Burns, Jesse Perez. Thank you for being on the Last First podcast.
Thank you for
so
having me,
appreciative
Jason.
of you.
Thank you so kindly.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Nice seeing you again.
Love it.